Hello, welcome to the 27th Airex TV with some questions and answers and topics. So let's start with Airhacks news. This is the mailing list, and what I recognized is we have 700 subscribers. So over 700 subscribers, and I try to send at least once a month, or at most once a month, a mail with meta contents like about upcoming events and conferences, Java user group meetings and stuff like this. Okay, what's also interesting, there is a workshop for October with React, and what I just by accident recognized is that it React's default architecture called Flux is very similar to Afterburner FX, and I will probably record a screencast or write a small demo. It's a very similar, which is somehow funny. The Airhacks news, this was the URI, what I shown before, 700 subscribers. If you like, subscribe as well. Even more interesting, I think at Wednesday I'm at Java User Group Nuremberg, and I think this is the right link. And there are already 48 registrations. I have no idea what the upper limit is. But what I'm going to do is I would like to show you how to implement web apps in 2016 with nothing but Java EE and some Docker and stuff. And I hope I get lots of questions. So I'm really looking forward to this event. So if you can come by, it is the Wednesday, 8th June at 6 p.m. and prepare questions as always, and yeah, it will be lots of fun. Of course, this event is completely free. So this was interesting, and of course next week there is the classic Airhacks in Munich, and I get daily registrations, and if you can, if you like, you can register as well. The next round is going to be in December, or even next year, but I guess in December. And yeah, and this course is also filling up. This is testing and microservices. Okay, now a little bit more technical stuff. So this was just fluff, no stuff, and now come back to something more interesting. So what I did, there is a prototype of Headlands, and what Headlands is a how to call it, JCache exposer via REST. This would be the most appropriate description of Headlands. And what it does, it exposes entries as key value pairs. I use it on my server and several projects. And what I did recently is all the cache changes are streamed via WebSockets to external clients. And how it looks like is the following. I can just run it, and it should launch the Whitefly. This is the server I tested with. Yes, looks nice. So it starts Headlands on Hazelcast. So it takes a little bit longer because it tries to find, you know, the cluster participants. So now it's booted. And what I also did, I wrote a small React app which should listen to events, and I will just connect to this. And now we'll just perform some system tests, and the system tests will create caches and change the caches. So this is the old system test. So, and if we go back to the browser, we'll see the beautiful, really beautiful, minimalistic React app received all the events. So it works really nice. So I committed all the code from the Headlands, but not. I will release it soon with the new features, and Headlands is also used for configuring microservices. So I use it a lot for different purposes. It's almost like a NoSQL database in which stores the data in memory. An older project. So this was interesting news from the GitHub. What I also did, I delivered or I created a new version of Porcupine, which is it's not released yet, but the code is there, which is more resilient. And what it actually does, if you misconfigure the thread pools, you get an error from Porcupine and not from executors from Java util concurrent. It happens to be a little bit more cryptic because it just throws illegal state exception without any content. So Porcupine is going to be more user-friendly, or we could also say more resilient. Okay, and what I also did, it is related to one of the questions from today. I implemented a new version of Server Smoke, which is going to also be released soon. And what it actually does is, it's the following. There is a smoke detector, which is an interceptor with injected POJO and injected event. And I'm going to use this to test the servers for smokes tests, the application servers, Java 7 or Java 8. And there is one related questions in the today's AirHacks. So as always, if you have any questions, ask via Twitter or via the chat. So I will just look at the chat. So busy chat. And I got the first question on Twitter, I think it was yesterday. And the question is how to picket links single sign-on with SSL, JDBC, ORM or not on Wi-Fi 10. And this is a very easy answer from Philip. Is the picket link is, I don't know whether it's deprecated, but I would suggest to use Keycloak. And if you just search for Keycloak JDBC, you will find the answer. So you can, this is just use JDBC as a realm or user store, and with different databases. So the answer is don't use picket link, use Keycloak. Okay, so we answered the very first question, and now back to Java E8 news. And before I start with my blog post, Oracle moves in strange ways, which happened to be extremely popular. It was like 10,000 reads in 24 hours, which is unusual for a fluffy topic. It is not a technical one. I would like to tell you a funny story. So I think it was 1998. So I worked for a very large German company, and I remember someone evaluated Corba. This is common request broker architecture and object request broker architecture. And someone evaluated the Corba. It was in early Java days, 1998. And there was a developer, and then after a few weeks, or I think even months of evaluation, he came out and set up a meeting to discuss the results. And the meeting was very short because the team lead said, why are you actually evaluating Corba? We're using, DCOM for a month, and DCOM was the Microsoft counterpart of Corba. And the funny story is they completely forgot the guy in the room. So he evaluated for himself Corba, and there was very disappointed because at the end the whole effort was worthless. And this is how big companies are sometimes working. So no one knows what the other is doing. So it's not like large companies are evil. They are somehow chaotic. But what I wrote is a post about my opinion on Oracle inactivity in Java 8, and this is actually evident. So what I also did, I prepared a pointer to a mailing list, and this is the official Java 8 mailing list, and this is the official answer from Linda DeMichael, and she says, as most of our team members are still currently on other assignments, I unfortunately cannot give you an estimate on this. So what what is already admitted is that the AGs or the spec leads which are employed by Oracle are assigned to other tasks, so they have no more time to work on Java EE, which is a little bit strange. And this is why I wrote the blog post, why it's so strange. So basically it's the following. So I think Oracle earns some money with WebLogic. And WebLogic happens to be a Java EE server. And what happened before Java 1, I was asked by different clients from all over the world why WebLogic is so slow with the adoption of Java EE, and most of my clients were extremely unhappy with the pace of WebLogic adopting newer standards. Why they were so eager to have the new standards, and I guess is if nothing happens in a space, it's a really bad sign for a product. So they were just curious about the future of WLS. And so after Java 1 or at Java 1 2015, WebLogic was certified being a Java 7 server, and everyone was happy again. So the clients were happy, so they had a fresh application server, and the developers could use some more APIs. So, and now, what happens right now? So Oracle has WebLogic Java 7 certified application server, and now Oracle spec leads have no time to contribute to Java EE 8. So what it actually means? What it means is if Oracle releases new WebLogic at one point of time, and there is no Java EE 8, they will probably come with some new features. But these features can be only proprietary. And in my eyes, so my eyes means I have only experience in bigger European companies, or all European companies. I never worked, I never had a longer project in the USA or in other parts of the world. But what it basically means is that the clients will have to rely on proprietary WebLogic features. And I have to tell you, I don't think it will happen, because what happens over time, the clients try to implement or rely on standard. And why this? Because even between releases, the application server can change, which is a little bit dangerous. And with Java EE, you are only relying on the standard, and whether the application server gets a new release or not, the API just cannot change. So that cannot be a change in the API. What can always happen, of course, a bug, like implementation of the API could be different. So in my eyes, just dedicating the resources somewhere else is not that wise if Oracle is still interested in earning money with WebLogic. If not, probably they have other strategies, like you drop WebLogic completely and do something else, like focus on clouds and hope that the clients will migrate from WebLogic to the clouds, which I think would be also hard to convince paying customers to drop WebLogic and move to the clouds without Java EE. So to be completely depending on proprietary APIs. So what I did in the post, I just remembered in the early days of WebLogic, there was file services and they disappeared in one point of time, and we had to migrate to something else. This was a small thing. And this is basically the blog post, and it is not like criticizing Oracle why they are inactive. It's just I don't understand why they are inactive, and because with Java EE support, they could sell WebLogic a lot better. Why this? Because if they have some cool features, and they have actually cool features like multi-tenancy, monitoring is huge, and you can run WebLogic on Java Mission Control very nicely with nice monitoring capabilities, then the clients will appreciate that actually the business logic is not depending on the proprietary stuff, but they could use the proprietary stuff on top of that. And I think this is a good thing. It's not like, everything has to be standardized, but if there is no standards, I think this is how Java started, and this was a huge mess. Okay, this is just additional opinion on this. And if you have your opinion, just drop it to the chat, or write a comment in my blog, even better. Then there is some more stuff there. So let's go to someone asked me How do you find clients, or do you have agency or go after tenders yourself? I don't find any clients. So usually what happens, I get requests via email. I have no accounts on LinkedIn, Facebook. The only thing I have is my YouTube channel. I have, Airex TV. And the one thing is, I started with Java in 1995 and became independent in 1997. It's a long time. So I gathered lots of clients. So I'm just overloaded with Java work. This is what happens to me. And I cannot give you advice whether you should become independent or not, because it's really it depends on the person heavily. Okay, so this was our off-topic questions, but a good one. So we have so this was the Oracle moves in strange ways. What also happens? Some more news is the following. Where is the my notes here? There is a new release of the security spec for Java 8, and this is quite interesting. It's called Soteria. You can use it right now. You can just check out the sources and build it. It was a huge contribution from Arian, from Zeef, from the community. And the interesting part is you can use it right now. And I get lots of questions about custom stores or whatever. And you see the implementation here. So this is the Arian teams, and there are several authorization schemes like mem-based and DB and custom. And what I did, I just check it out and build it with Maven clean install, and builds immediately. And this is a nice work with. So if you're interested in security, and I got lots of questions about security, give it a try. Provide feedback, create issues, pull requests, and if you would contribute, just let Arian know. And Arian is a I would say hyperactive guy. It's like he working, I think, day and night and cranking some code and great code. So thank you for this. This was the Soteria. Okay, another good one is repeatable annotations. And this is actually good stuff. So what will happen? Some specs, and this is also from Linda de Michael. She said, okay, repeating annotations are going to be addressed, not by all specs, because she has no influence on all these specs, but at least on the common annotations milestone release. And yeah, this is good news for Java E. Why this? Because at least something happened. So we get some little changes like Java E8 support in Java E8. So and so what's also interesting, the if we go to JSF spec and we go to the I actually forgot where this is Mohara GitHub. Is the mirror? Yes. It's pretty active. And why it's active? Because the community is active. And as you can see, another hyperactive guy, Balus C, is actually working with Arian. So you see Arian and Balus, they are cranking code like crazy here and are going for JSF. They are supporting JSF. So actually also a great story how community can help Oracle. So if Oracle does not have enough resources to support Java 8, where community can step in. And yeah, this is the JSF story. What else? Weld is also released. So there is a new alpha release from Weld, and there should be. Where is today's Weld 3.0 alpha? Alpha 6 is released. This is what I search for. 16, yeah, and this was is released, and there's even newer one. So on the Weld side, great news. They're also working. There's lots of code, lots of activity going on. So we have Weld, we have JSF and repeatable annotations. So far, so good for Java 8 news. And now start with the remaining regular questions. So any questions from Slack? No questions here. And chat is also quiet. So then go back to the questions. So we covered the Oracle stuff. And the first question is the interceptor class. And what happens here? We have an interceptor with injected bean, and this didn't work for J Paranda. And my answer was it should work, so I wrote him an email, which is exception. Usually I don't answer technical questions anymore. I expect to file the questions here. And what I did, I enhanced server smoke. This is what I showed you earlier. So this is exactly this, and this is also an interceptor with injected POJO. And this POJO can be an EGB as well, or something which is scoped. And this always worked for me. So it seems like a bug from the application server in the case of J Paranda. So I would say try out the server smoke, the recent code, and it should work. If it doesn't, it's probably a server bug. So we cover this question. Okay, now it gets a little bit more interesting. So there is JAX-B implementation of, and he asked me problem with single slotted list or collection. So collection with single size, they behaved strangely. And the problem usually in Glassfish is the built-in jettison. And jettison had not is a bug or feature, but if you rendered something which is single slotted list, it was rendered as an object, not as an array, which caused some problems on the JavaScript side. And therefore, usually what we did in the past with Glassfish was we tried Jackson, which worked fine. And in the recent Payara, I think there's Eclipse Link Moxy already built in. So the answer is use Jackson, should work out of the box. And if it doesn't, instead of Glassfish, what you should use is Payara. So there is Payara fish, and what Payara fish is Glassfish with commercial support from the Payara committers, which are again hyperactive. So this is my GitHub account. As you can see, they are just spamming my timeline. I don't know how many commits a day they perform, but this is crazy what's going on here. So just try Payara and see whether you still get the problem, because Glassfish is not very eager. So what's also true is the Glassfish v5 is like there is no activity at Oracle side, and they also not accepting any external contributions right now. So I would say Glassfish, the future of Glassfish is unknown, but the future of Payara is bright right now. Looks really great, and I know lots of customers who actually using Payara, and they are very happy with it. So to answering question from, we can actually close this and close that. From Stuart is try Payara first. Then look at Jackson, and Jackson solved my problems with serialization. And even I use I think it was Jackson provider Adam Bean. I even made it work with Tommy. And this was 2 years ago. And why I did it? Because I had exactly the same problem with the collections as you had. Okay. Next one. Questions regarding Headlands, and this is why I actually show you Headlands, because it's related to the question here. And what he asks me, I'm using a startup singleton in Headlands, and why I'm doing this, I could also use application scoped. And this is very true, and I just change it because it doesn't actually matter. And the benefit, as he says, is testability. So what I did, I changed the initializer. And it is no more at singleton. It's application scoped, which boots itself. So it looks a little bit differently. In the case of EGB, you will have to start to write at singleton at startup, and in the case of application scope, you have do this, you can say observes initialized application scope, and you have to pass an argument, of course, which does not matter in my case. So I would say the EJB way is a little bit more concise, because we can write startup and post construct and not the cryptic stuff. But this, I don't need EJBs here at all, it is easier to test with, for instance, Delta Spike. So I don't need any special EJB support to write integration tests for that. And this was actually the question. So I changed that, is committed. So thank you for the hint. And why I did it? Because I think I did it anyway in Marina JC2. I actually performed the change already. So I show you just the code. It is where was it? It's here. It's like client from for configuration client. I did the same. So it's there's an older code from me. So from January, and I already used this approach. So okay, if someone asks about this, I would just initialize Headlands in the same way as this project. So it's just a matter of style. I would prefer this one, and the other one is a little bit more cryptic, but easier to test. So I will go for the cryptic for now. And now his question is: multiple threads could enter the cache and create a new cache. Yes, but it really depends on the implementation. But this is an idempotent call, because the cache name and configuration are the same, and with the same configuration you would get the same result. So nothing should happen. And what will happen in future, I will split the initializer and the manager to two classes. I was just too lazy for this. Okay, so yeah, Michael, thank you for the hints, and yes, I changed the code to your suggestion. So now I will probably write a short blog post about this. And now the next one. Yeah, this is the Moxy dependency in Glassfish, and the answers here: look at Payara and on Payara server, or try with Jackson. And in the newest Glassfish releases, Moxy should be enabled anyway. Okay, so I think we covered right now everything. So we have the single element, which we covered this. We covered the concurrency, and what we also covered is the issue with Moxy and Glassfish. So a little bit more interesting, or a bit interesting, controversial, is about local and remote interfaces, an anti-pattern. And this is an interesting one. So I just, where is my, here, an old blog post from when? 2009. And 7 years ago, there were lots of articles that having local and remote interfaces for an EJB is an anti-pattern. And no one actually said why. So it's like, you shouldn't do this. And I got never the answer, why not? So I wrote actually the post and saying this is perfectly fine to have local and remote interfaces, and actually use this pattern frequently. And what I did, I exposed via remote interface, the coarse grain stuff, and via local interfaces like a friend relations to other components. And yeah, and it worked fine. So, but what happens now 7 years later is I don't have remote interfaces anymore. Why not? Because the main communication channel became JAX-RS. So it is easy enough, and you can, on the other side, you can have Angular, React, or Ember.js clients, actually HTML clients, or IoT clients, or whatever, iOS, IoT, Android, which are talking to us. And the funny story is, or the good story is, if you don't need remote interface, we can also skip the local interface, because all public methods are actually comprise the local interface. So my EJB don't have any interfaces right now, and I would argue having local or remote interface is an anti-pattern right now, because we don't need them. Remote should be for forbidden because first we get deserialization errors, and second, only Java classes can access Java clients can access the backend, and Java clients are not that popular anymore. I would say HTML5 or native mobile clients are more popular than Corba based or RMI based communication, and there are some RMI or serialization flaws in Java. So remote, you shouldn't use this, and if you don't need remote, you also don't need a local, because all public interfaces comprise the local interface. So this is the story behind local and remote, and and I hope I addressed the question. And but the actual question is there any penalty to use at remote? And the answer is, if you would use remote without any further configuration, there is a penalty. Why? Because you would force the application server to copy parameters and return values, or to clone them, because it's specified that way. And I think I also write a blog post, so I actually forgot about this, Anna. Add remote optimization. And this is, I think, how it's called in Glassfish. I think it was call by reference. Seems like. So, and 2 years later, call there is an optimization in all known application servers, and you can do this in the proprietary deployment descriptor from EGBjar, and this is called like call by reference in Glassfish, I think. Call by reference, Glassfish. Pass by reference. Exactly. And this pass by reference, if you put this, you can you will have the same performance for at remote as at local. Still don't use it. I think JAX-RS should be the preferred way to as a communication channel in 2016. But yes, there will be no performance penalty if you're using this. So now this is also interesting. So what Andy did, he wrote a property resolver which reads properties and makes them injectable. And this is actually very similar to Marina, which makes the Headlands cache injectable. It's interesting for microservices. And he asked the question, and this is like strange behavior, like on deployment, and second time he will find the properties, but the first time not. And if he uses the web interface, it always works. So what I think is what happens is the following. I don't know which IDE Andy is using. Probably he is deploying via IDE and in exploded format. And just if the application.property didn't change, the IDE didn't copy the application.properties or whatever, and then it was just not picked up by Whitefly, JBoss, or whoever. Just in my case, I never had such a problems. But what I often do is I use the command line interface to get sure to deploy the things. And if you and I'm being Whitefly deploy CLI, so then, for instance, this one. And if you use the command line interface, it's far more convenient than the web page, and then you should always find the properties. So don't rely on the IDE, rely on command line is the best one. Or what I do right now, I use Docker for this, and Docker or my Docker image always contains the whole application server plus the war, and there was never such a problem. So what I think what happens in your case is you're using proprietary deployment of your IDE, and at the second time, the IDE just recreates everything, and Whitefly finally or eventually finds the application properties. This is what I think what happens. So I don't think it's a fault from your property resolver, rather than the problem is your deployment process. So I would suggest try the command line interface and then let us know whether it worked for you or not. Okay. Now let's see what happens here. Is Oracle dropping support for NetBeans? As they could broken glassfish in the download? No, I don't think so. That first, what means support? What I think, there is no commercial support for NetBeans available yet. What Glassfish Java is, the recent Glassfish 4 is still the valid Java 7 implementation, so it is perfectly valid for NetBeans to ship Glassfish. But what you can also do, you can just download Payara and replace Glassfish with Payara. So this is what you can do. And actually, if you go to my NetBeans, where is it? And this is what I always do. The Glassfish here, one of the Glassfishes is from NetBeans, which ships with NetBeans, I guess this one. And Payara looks like Glassfish, but I just installed it separately and pointed NetBeans to Payara. I just said add Glassfish server and just search, and then I just added the Payara one. And I have different Glassfish instances because of my clients. Okay, so yeah. JDeveloper, so my understanding is JDeveloper comes with many NetBeans components, and ADF, no idea about the future of ADF. So Andy, the real project uses Docker and copies the war over in deployment folder. Wi-Fi scans the folder and deploys it. It does also not work. That's interesting. So what Andy is saying probably is the Andy from the GitHub guests, that the real project use Docker and it does not work the first time. This is really curious. What it actually means if you repackage the Docker image, you recreate the Docker image and start it the second time, then it works, and the first time not. So I cannot imagine that. So if it doesn't work in Docker, then it's something then is something wrong with the code, I would say. Okay. What could be, wait a second, where you are testing this, property resolver, post construct, where are you using this actually? No, there is no use. What could be that you are injecting your properties into, for instance, an EJB, and the property gets cached. And if the EJB is recreated, you get a fresh value, something like this. This could happen. Okay, also very interesting. So a video in 2013, and you are saying, okay, I'm relying on Eclipse entity boundary control pattern. This is this one. It's actually not from Eclipse, so it's very old. I think. BCE object boundary, let's see, boundary control entity book, something with objects. Oh, nice. And this was either Mr. Rum, something like this. No, sorry, Rum. Yes. Or Butch. It's an ancient stuff, but I just cannot find the book anymore. There was an object-oriented design by Grady Butch. Let's try this. Object-oriented Grady Butch book. Okay, cannot find it. I have it somewhere, and in this book, the entity control boundary pattern appears first. And why it's so important? Because this book is older than UML itself. So, and the impact is all known drawing tools are supporting this pattern. So this is the background of the story, and I just have to go to the gist back. And he's asking me, it seems like the control is always mandatory, and my variation of the pattern says you can control is fully optional. So what you have to know is what was my motivation to reinvent or to find the BCE pattern and use it again. And the motivation is simple. So I actually have wrote a German book, and this was like Java EE patterns. Patterns, Adam Bean. Not this one. It is the for software and support. Software support. Old one. Forgot actually the title from the book. Just do it. This was German one, so I would just try it in German. Yes, the enterprise architecture was the first one, and there was another one called Java E5 patterns, I think. You see, this was 10 years ago. Java E5 architectures. So, and this old Java E5 architectures book, I introduced my own layers. So it was like facade, service, and domain. And it worked well. The problem with that was it was even older. It is 9 years ago. So the problem with this is in all my projects, I had to justify why this name. So why I'm calling the first layer facade and not service layer, or service facade or whatever. Whatever I chosen, I was always wrong. And what I did 2 or 3 years later is for the orange book and for the green book, the English one, what you probably know, this real world Java real world patterns. Is this one? And in this book, or starting with the orange one in 2009, 2 years later, I said, okay, the semantics are the same, but I tried to find a standard. And the most close standard I found was BCE and boundary control entity. And since then, it just took off. I never had to justify the names because I always told the story about Grady Butch and the boundary control entity story. And so there was, since I think I cannot remember any meeting, just trying to justify the name. There was one conference in Poland who someone approached me, why the names? I explained the names, and yeah, and then I never had, to explain the naming again. And but I would say feel free to modify it a little bit. And what I don't believe is in very restrictive rules where you can say, you always have to implement control. In fact, last week, one of my clients, we had a discussion. I performed a code review on a startup project, and they always use control. And the impact was the boundary was sometimes empty. Just delegate it to the control. Say, okay, don't do it this way. If the boundary is empty, just delete the boundary and make the control the boundary. So I would say it is really important that the controls are optional and not mandatory. I hope I explain it. Oh, and he likes the microservices workshop. What is it? It's Java EE microservices. This is the workshop, and he likes it. So thank you. This is this one. 55 episodes about Java EE microservices. So thank you for the hint. And now, 3 hours ago, there's the new one. No, this is 12 hours ago. What are your thoughts on Oracle Application Development Framework? So my understanding is there is a new release, and my understanding is that Oracle. So I never used ADF, I have to admit. But Oracle's investing a little bit more, is my impression, in Oracle Jet, which is HTML5 JavaScript framework. And this one looks interesting and reasonable. And my understanding is this ADF is becoming a little bit more less interesting. But I have really no experience with ADF. This is interesting, Linfi. You're saying it's advertised as a Java framework, but speaking frankly, I fail to see the Java part beside the fact you need a WebLogic server to run an ADF application. So this is actually what I said. Oracle moves in strange ways, because if something like this happens in my project, it becomes no more interesting for larger projects. Does ADF play a role in your projects? Not in my projects. So I never used ADF in my projects. I never saw a project with ADF, but I know that such projects exist. But this is probably I won't get hired if someone would like to have ADF. Okay. So Robert asked me, he likes the video. So there's I think airhacks.io. And these are all videos I recorded so far. This is Bootstrap, effective Java, testing, and microservices. Or are equally popular, interestingly. And they are watched from, I don't know, 50 plus countries. So it's really amazing how popular Java gets. Do you have plans for more? Yes. I'm thinking, right now I'm just thinking about recording. I'm not, so Java 7 architectures. This is a workshop at the airport Munich. And I don't think it would work as an online version, because we have lots of discussion here. And if I would just talk about these topics here via in an online way, I think it would be completely boring, because I would just say, you don't need transactions, go with REST. And everyone will say, yeah, but what if? And this what if happens at Munich airport, where we discuss, transactions for 1 hour. So I think I don't think it's a good idea to record the online variant of the or online version of the Java architectures. What I'm thinking about is more JavaScript one, and common JavaScript ES 2015 or no more modern JavaScript, probably React or something like UI HTML5, probably something like this. And topics like probably persistence or security or something like this. This is what I'm thinking about. I just have several agendas, but didn't start to record anything. Why? Because there are too many concurrent projects right now, which is good. So okay. So I think this was the last question from GitHub. So let's see what happens here. So there are no questions in Twitter. So Andy says the bean it used property resolver as a singleton EJB. Maybe the producer are not ready at initiation time. I don't think so. But if you would like to go, sure, make it at startup, annotate it with at startup, and then it should be ready at start time. And yeah, it's a strange problem you have. I experimented a lot with configuration and it always worked in my case. So Stuart says you can run ADF in Glassfish, but only Glassfish 3.1 and have the ADF Essentials library. Okay, I didn't even knew this. So thank you, Stuart, for this. It's very slow, but nice for cross-platform mobile. So okay, so if you knew, you have no experience with this, is what Stuart is saying, and he seems to be an ADF expert. So Brem says, so I have to come to Munich. I think so. For architectures, you will have to come to Munich. And by the way, we have attendees from India, Costa Rica, Brazil, and whatever. So actually, whatever, sorry, but I forgot it. This is what whatever meant. So there are actually the attendees. So lots of attendees from all over the world. Dubai, Greece, Saudi Arabia is crazy. So you can absolutely come. And actually, the Germans were always in not minority, but about 50% of the attendees. So, no questions. Then thank you for watching. See you in Munich. airhacks.com. See your online workshops if you like. And keep asking. So I will set up tomorrow this guest for the 28th Airex TV. And so I will write some blog post about the topics from this Airhacks. So about the initialization, startup versus application scoped, and topics I show you right now, and also announce the releases of Headlands, Porcupine, and Server Smoke. So thank you for watching, and see you next month, the first Monday of the month at 6 p.m. CET. So thank you and bye.